I'm now going to be joined by fellow Olympic gold medalist Julie Foudy. She's a National Soccer Hall of Famer, two-time Olympic gold medalist, two-time World Cup champion, and former captain of the U.S. Women's National Soccer Team. She previously served as president of the Women's Sports Foundation, and she's currently an analyst and reporter on ESPN. She's also a youth sports organizer, co-founding the Julie Foudy Sports Leadership Academy, an organization focused on developing leadership skills in teenage girls in 2006. If there's anyone who knows what it means to win, it's Julie Foudy. So let's jump in. Good afternoon, Julie. Thank you so much for joining us at NextUp University. Thanks for
Anytime, Benita, for you, anything, my dear.
Thank you. That's what you said when I asked you, so I really appreciate it. Always there. I just gave a small, short little keynote about achieving your personal best. And, as an individual athlete, I was certainly part of teams in high school and in college and Team USA. But still, my points were scored as an individual athlete. And, I wonder what a personal best looks like for a team as opposed to an individual athlete. What's your perspective on that?
That's a good question. It's interesting because we used to always joke as part of a team, there's no I in team, but there's a me. And so it's actually very similar, I think, because I do think the best teams have to be individually driven.
Right.
You have to want to strive for your personal best. I mean, the added element you have is you have a framework around you of teammates who, whether it's overt or not so overt, provide some pressure for you to be your best, right? You didn't ever want to come into national team soccer camp without being fit or having, played games. So you always had that external pressure in a good way. But you also knew you had to bring it personally to practice, to, when you were in your off season every single day, and individually make it happen. And so I think, that's one of the joys of being on a team, is that give and take of I'm gonna play you for my position, or I'm gonna compete with you for my position. But at the same time, at the end of the day, it's a we greater than a me, right?
Right. Absolutely. And I think for the leaders here at NextUp, I think there's probably more resonance with the team aspect of personal best. We all understand the individual pursuit it takes to be a great athlete, but I think collectively as leaders, we're leading teams of people, either teams of players or teams of people. And so I think that sentiment is understood, that you got to bring your best game and you're going to compete for your spot.
Yeah, absolutely.
So 2 World Cups, 2 gold medals, and I think a silver thrown in there somewhere.
We call it white gold. Thank you.
That little white gold, yeah. Not to mention, championships at all of the levels at Stanford and other places that you've been earlier in your career. I wonder, some of the common traits or themes that you've seen across the winning organizations that you've been a part of.
How many days do we have for this one? I mean, it's there's so many elements that I've learned through sports, which is really the gift of sports that I use in my everyday life. But I think the elements that are the most profound that I think of are, one, you have this willingness in the individual, going back to the individual, to grind it out, to put in the work, to put in the sweat equity, and have good habits and be disciplined and make good decisions and all those things we know you need to get to the highest level. But beyond that, and once you have that, it's then gathering that group together and saying, okay, now how do we make this work together? And I will always say, and have always said, that without question, the most important thing on our national team and our consistent success, it's one thing to be great, it's another to be consistently great, was the culture and the team chemistry and the ability to trust and rely on others and them to be able to rely on you, um, and learning that from a young age was such a gift because it's something that you build into everything you do in life, right? Whether it's my television work, whether it's my leadership academies and our camps, all these different things I've been able to play a part in, you create a culture around it that is joyful and fun, and there's a happiness to what you're doing. And that was always us. There was laughter, right? I see kids nowadays that are so serious on the field, and I'm like, it's sports, people, right?
Fun.
Yes, like there should be like dancing and celebration when you score. There should be, singing happening on the field. That's how our national team practices were. I mean, we genuinely love to be around each other. And when I look back on the teams that won World Cups or won Olympics, that's the common denominator from 1 to player 20. And in
Okay.
fact, Benita, we used to go to our coach and say, me and Carla, the two captains, we would say, hey, we would like to choose the last 3 players on the roster.
Wow.
So we would like to choose 18, 19, and 20. And at first the coach would be like, why? And we'd be like, because we don't care about 1 to 17. You're going to get that right. But if
Right.
you get 18, 19, and 20 right, if those 3 who are not going to get much time, but are going to be part of it and into it and bought in and get it and positive on the bench, not sulking, then we're going to win. And
Right.
it's when we got that right, we won. That was
Okay.
the most important thing.
Yeah, because that can easily drag people down. I would imagine that trust, that team chemistry was really put to the test uh,
Mm,
when you won the World Cup in 91, lost in 95, and then had to kind of, in the meantime, won a couple Olympic gold medals, but you had to fight back to get that World
yeah.
Cup title back in 99. So, tell me a little bit about what it took for the team to bounce back from adversity.
Yeah. Well, 95 was one of the best lessons we ever learned. I mean, losing stinks, as we all know, and it's no
Yeah.
fun. I'm always telling my kids that. But, it's the perfect opportunity to extract a lesson and grow and learn. And, we eventually, another gift of sport is learn that failure is actually this wonderful thing if channeled properly, right? And taken in the right form. And what we learned in 95 is we had trained so hard. We were so physically fit, but we had spent no time on the mental side of things and making sure that we were taking care of those little things. And that's when we brought in actually Dr. Colleen Hacker right after the 95 World Cup loss. And we started looking back on all of it. And yeah, we could run, a marathon if we wanted to. We were so physically fit, but we hadn't taken care of the little things that would actually get you over the edge. And by that I mean, going down a goal, how are you responding, where are you in the final closing minutes of a game? I mean, I literally remember in the 95 World Cup against Norway in the semifinal being so tired and so physically and mentally exhausted that I was just wishing for the game to end when there was a World Cup on the line. And that's where I was mentally. It was like, wait, what? That shouldn't be my mindset as I'm closing out a World Cup. Like I can't. So we fixed that. We fixed that quickly, one in 96 and then one in 99 to your point. But it took actually a lot of time spending time on that and making that an emphasis. But it does actually make a huge difference.
So I want to switch gears for a second and talk about the Julie Foudy Sports Leadership Academy. It's one of the things I most admire about you, that you've been obviously such an amazing athlete on the field, now transitioned to doing broadcasting, but in the meantime, through the Women's Sports Foundation and obviously now through your own academy, been continuing to give back and stay connected to the next
Mm,
generation of great athletes. And I'm wondering, particularly during this time of kind of social isolation, when we've had limited opportunities for kids to play, what lessons are resonating with kids now? How are you interacting with them? How are you helping them stay connected, and prepared mentally and physically?
yeah, that's a great one. Um, I mean, it's challenging for everyone as we live through this, right? As we're learning and as it lingers on and it continues. And the tendency um is is frustration or anger or whatever it is, complaints about, what's happening. And instead, and which is a common theme with our leadership academy, right? We are always talking about the power to choose your attitude in everything you go through, right? And how you want to write your story. Honestly, you are the one that's going to be able to dictate how you write your story. And so the thing that we keep coming back to, both as a parent and with our leadership academies is, when you look back on this time, I want you to look back and think, okay, I was able to do all these great things because I had the time or
Yeah.
because I was given this. And so to flip this negative into a positive in a healthy way, and whether it's now I have time to work on a skill set I wasn't able to do, or work on my, soccer skills or volleyball skills in a different way that I wasn't able to do. There's always something you can derive from it. But the power of choice and attitude is a huge constant theme with these kids. And it's interesting because they respond, and at that age it's like you could just plant these little seeds about the power you have in choosing your path and your destiny, and how you want to lead. Like, it's in every one of us, right?
Right.
It's just waiting to be unleashed. It's not whether or not you have it. You have it. It's just what form it will take.
Right.
And so it's been challenging, but I also love the challenge of it, in a sense that it's an opportunity to grow in a real sense too.
You've been a part of so many winning teams, both, I feel like, certainly on the playing field, but, you're a winning team at ESPN, you're the winning team with your Leadership Academy. What qualities do you think from the winning sports teams you've been on translate to being in a kind of winning organization, a winning company?
Um, there's one quality that I seek for in everything I do, right? I think we often, when we're hiring people, we look at, oh, what's their resume? How many degrees? What's their area of expertise? I seek out people who find joy in what they're doing. Like,
Uh,
hire joyful people. You can always teach them what to do, but
mhm.
when you create a culture that is fun to be around and is inclusive and warm, and you feel good about what you're doing, you want to grind alongside next to those people. You're going to put in the work. You're going to do your best that you can do, whether it was as an athlete on the field next to these amazing women who we laughed all day with, and we were like, we call this a job. This is amazing, right? And it's the same mindset I take into anything I do, right? Like, I've been really lucky at ESPN to find the events that I love to do, like Little League World Series, Special Olympics. Obviously I get to cover Olympics and World Cups and all those fun things, but on the side, I've been able to do stuff that that I find joy in as well. So that is always, I think, something I think coaches and parents have to remember too with their kids, and that they set that tone,
Yes.
right? They're going to model what you're doing as a coach. And I think some coaches in particular think, oh, winning and having fun are mutually exclusive. I would actually argue having fun and finding the joy in a sport brings winning. That's
Yes.
what made us consistently great. And so to never forget that as part of your training, as part of your practices, and it's little things you can weave into practices and training, and as parents that find the joy in what you're doing, like, allow them to have fun and be free, and good things happen when you do that.
It sounds like that same philosophy when you were selecting numbers 18, 19, and 20 on the team. You were selecting for joy. You wanted people who had that
Exactly.
great attitude, that had that hard work, and weren't going to bring everybody else down. They're going to lift you up,
Yep.
whether they were playing or not. And I think that's really great advice for all of us to kind of close this out. So, Julie, it's always a pleasure to hang out with you, whether it's virtually or standing, going across the stage at the Women's Sports Foundation and
Oh,
high-fiving
may
you
we
on
be able to do that again
the board.
soon.
I know, I know. So you're fantastic. We love
Thanks,
you
my dear.
dearly, and thank you so much for
My
joining.
pleasure. Thank you.
Mhm.